First amongst those items was the information provided by the applicant for the purposes of tonight's meeting. Nick and Lauren are also on screen tonight. They are the applicants and potential buyers of this facility. Along with them is Charlie St. Ange, the broker of the property, who I believe will have the architect on his cell phone. So if there are questions relating to the architectural drawings, Mr. Yao is available, I believe. And then Mr. Smith, I believe, is a representative with Mr. St. Ange. So those are the individuals here. They have provided what I consider the submittal package. Secondly, the department also provided you information that was made available to the Historic Preservation Commission. The Historic Preservation Commission needed to review and act upon this particular request as well, since, as noted, the building is on the city's historic register, not the National Registry of Historic Places. It's the city registry. The Historic Preservation Commission held 2 meetings on this particular matter. The report that's contained in the introductory information is the report the commission members received at their first meeting. With that, I do want to just give you a quick overview of the property and the process to date. The property is located on the northwest corner of Pond Road and Manchester Road. It is part of the Pond Historic District as defined by the Town Center Plan. That is why the Architectural Review Board must consider this particular item and take action in regard to it. It is part of Town Center, and any alterations to buildings, particularly in commercial districts, require the action of the board. The property is zoned C8 Planned Commercial District. It does have a site-specific ordinance. That ordinance required the preservation of the building for historic purposes. Thereafter, the owner of the property at that time placed it on the city's registry, and as part of that, received incentives from the city, a waiver to the traffic generation assessment fees that would have been calculated toward the provided parking on site. The Historic Preservation Commission did consider this particular matter, and last night at its meeting approved the installation of the garage doors, or more simply stated, the alteration of the historic asset. As part of that action, the Historic Preservation Commission noted that the garage doors were to be placed on what is considered a more recent addition, not the original structure or historic asset. The original structure is of brick construction. The addition where the garage doors are planned is a concrete block. We estimated last night from aerial photography, the addition was added to the original historic asset sometime between 1955 and 1965. So again, context for your purposes. When the board made its motion to approve the alteration, they recommended the design as presented in the packet be accepted and that the color of the doors be black. There was one dissenting vote on the Historic Preservation Commission, and it was more regarding the material, that being a wood instead of a steel door or doors. Mr. Scott from the commission, I believe, is in our participants area and may want to speak tonight as well. Again, just so to summarize, the Historic Preservation Commission has authorized the alteration of the building by the addition of the overhead doors. And tonight, the Architectural Review Board is being asked to consider the architectural characteristics, provide comments, and ultimately take action. With that, Mr. Newberry and I are available for any comments or questions regarding the materials. And as I say, we have the applicants and the applicant support team on screen as well for the presentation tonight. Thank you.
Joe, can I ask you a question?
You certainly may, Mr. Chair.
There were comments that were brought forward by David Dial, and in his absence, can they be read?
Certainly, I had trouble finding them. That's why I came on screen late tonight. Does Mr. Newberry have them by any chance? Yes, he does. And while he's retrieving those, are there any other questions or comments of the department? I apologize for the delay. Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Welker has a question or comment.
Yes, sir.
Just one question. I just read the memo that I guess was written by the department. Yeah, on page 3, they talk about a man door between the 2 overhead doors. Am I reading that correctly? It's in the second paragraph below current request and recommendation.
That's a very good question, Mr. Welker. The original design that was submitted to the Historic Preservation Commission had additional components associated with it beyond the 2 overhead doors. The original design was one that had the 2 overhead doors and between it a man door. In addition to that, there were wood or fluted columns that were being proposed. And the Historic Preservation Commission commented on that and did not support that particular design. So what you are seeing is a revised design that came between 2 meetings of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay, well, I did not see the man door, and I didn't think it was appropriate. So I'm glad they objected to it. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Newberry, do you have it?
Yes.
Would you mind reciting it for the benefit of all?
Well, again, this is from Mr. Dial. Thanks for the packet. However, you may want to tell the petitioner that they will need to put in in more historically accurate doors. The metal doors with the raised panel will not fly. As in any historic building, it is imperative that the modification be appropriate to the time period of the building. A simple Google search will show the style that should be used. There are also specific requirements to consider when modifying buildings on the historic registry. He continues, not under our consideration is that per their sections, the overhead door will not function as drawn. There are minimum dimensions for track clearances. This is important because they should show accurate door height, which would look better anyway. And that concludes the body of the email.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one item. The Historic Preservation was made aware of the chair's comments from the Architectural Review Board and for the most part understood them. I think the overarching component that caused the Historic Preservation Commission to support the design that you see before you tonight was the fact that the doors are on the addition, the more recent addition, not the actual historic structure itself. Thank you.
So I'm not quite familiar with the guidelines for historic structures in Wildwood. What was the guidance that they gave when they originally granted the, let's call it relief?
The report that was provided also indicates that the Historic Preservation Commission utilizes the Department of Interior's requirements relating to the register. So although it's not on the National Register, the report and requirements relate to the building as if it were on the register, so to speak, the National Register. I think overarching and a common theme that was discussed at the Historic Preservation Commission on both nights was the fact that the building's been vacant for approximately 2 years. And as we know that from past experience, just across Manchester Road from this site, the old Pond Hotel, if historic assets stay vacant, they tend to not get the maintenance or care they need, and it's often demolition by neglect. And so the Historic Preservation Commission, again, focused on the retention of the original current service station was to be unaltered. The more recent addition was the alteration, and they felt that doing something simple was preferable than something trying to replicate what happened in the 1800s on a building from roughly about the mid 1950s or 60s. And again, Mr. Scott is here from the commission, and if I'm misstating this, I hope he will correct me.
Could I just wanted, could they just explain, I don't know if it was in the paperwork or not, but these renovations, I'm assuming, have to do with one, they're actually bringing a business into the building, and these renovations are central to the business, I'm assuming.
Mr. Bartlesmile, you just said in a very simple way, Joe, shut up and I will. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'm sure the applicants would like to speak now.
Please.
Hi, you guys. Thanks for being here today. My name is Lauren, and this is Nick. Sorry, we have our guys out running around tonight too in sweeper trucks, so he's trying to wrangle all of them. The doors being added on to the building are going to be essential for us. That's the area that we're going to be able to store our trucks in, have them indoors, so they're not exposed to the elements, and so that everything continues to look very nice, and they're not parked in that back parking lot. So this is essential to us, the company coming into the building and being able to use the building in the way that we need.
Is the height of the doors essential, I'm assuming, for that as well?
It is. We're looking at a 9-foot high by 10-foot wide door. Our trucks measure a little bit over 8 feet with the ladder racks on them. So the height is something that will be essential, yes.
Okay, just want to check. I know that was a comment from Mr. Dial, so.
Any other comments? David did express something about the height and clearances required. Have you been able to check and see if those doors of the height that you're looking for will actually work?
We have, in speaking with the architect, and we hired Overhead Garage Door. They are the biggest garage door company in St. Louis. And we've had them out to the site to measure, to look over everything. So we've had a lot of eyes on the site, making sure that this would all work out there. Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any comments about the style or the material that they would like to put forward at this point? I'll take that as a no.
Yeah, I don't have anything. If it passed the historical board, I have no comment.
Yeah, I would offer the same advice. If the historic board's passed, made recommendation to approve it, I would motion the same.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna have to agree with you.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interject. Mr. Scott, as Joe mentioned, is in attendance, and he has also raised his hand on Zoom. If you'd like me to let him in.
Please, I don't know how to do that, but
I'll take care of that.
my apologies for being rather inept at this.
He's on his way in.
I see a spot for him, but it appears he's muted.
Mr. Scott, I'm going to unmute you now.
Just a second, I'm trying to. Okay, I'm sorry, I lost you for a minute there. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've been looking at this and thinking about it, and actually it looks like you go back to 1920s gas stations. They, from what I've seen, examples around here are just usually one-room buildings with a covered or uncovered gas pump without service bays. Usually the work is done on a pit next to the building. So I really don't think we can come up with a historically accurate service bay for this building. And the fact that it was added in the, what Joe said, 50s or 60s, it's really not part of the historical building. And I think if we were looking at the simplest and most innocuous addition or treatment to this building. And I believe that the two doors in a dark color and whether they're wood or metal, I was voting for wood, and I think you'd get more styles, more details out of that would look better. But I would go with the metal too. I don't object to the vote we took last night now. So that's my feeling, and I think it sort of represents what the Historical Commission said last night.
I didn't realize that that was last night.
Oh, we meet all the time. Last afternoon, it was 4 o'clock we met.
Okay, then, considering the package that was submitted, do we want to take a vote for approval? Or is
Mr.
there a
Chair.
motion for approval?
Pardon my interruption, and I am,
Please.
so I would first ask Mr. Newberry, is there anyone else that would like to speak before a motion is made?
Mr. Chair, the only other person in attendance besides Mr. Scott is Councilmember Clark. Councilmember Clark would like to speak. If she could just give her a few moments to be able to raise her hand or put in the chat feature. And I'm not seeing her. Oh, she says nothing for me in the chat. So,
Mr. Chair, one last time, if there are any comments or questions for the applicants or the department from the review board members, we'd be glad to try to answer them at this time. Otherwise, the department is recommending approval. Mr. Welker. I apologize. I thought Mr. Welker had raised his hand.
Yeah, I thought he did too.
I'm sorry, you're looking for, I was just going to make a sort of a general comment in that I think the historical integrity of the facility was compromised back in the 50s or the 60s when they put the addition on. So it appears to me that what the applicants are trying to do, what they're doing or proposing to do is probably the best thing that they can do with what's out there. And that it's good to see the building continue to be put to good use as opposed to falling to the, I think is a great idea.
I guess the only question I have is, I know it was proposed as two separate colors. Was there a confirmation on a color last night, or is that still being decided on the garage door? Sorry.
Mr. Bartelsmeyer, the Historic Preservation Commission, as part of its motion, recommended black.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, again, with respectfully, the department requests a motion second and a roll call vote on approval.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I guess that nobody declined, so I'm assuming it passes.
Great. Thank you, guys. We
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Let's see here.
Thank you for improving one of our structures.
Yeah, so welcome to the neighborhood. Action. Kind of lost my place on the agenda for this evening.
Mr. Chair, the next item was a request from the department to elect a vice chair. But we do have a couple members missing tonight, and if you'd like to delay that to the next meeting, that would be acceptable to the department.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
If there's no objection amongst the board, then we'll put it on the next agenda when we have an item ready for review.
Great.
Sounds good.
Is that the
And
last?
Mr. Chair, I think we're done for the evening.
Blessedly, yes, thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Well, before you go, we need a motion.
to adjourn.
Yeah. I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you all.
All right.
Aye.
Good night.
Have a nice evening.
Good evening.